The goal is deliberately to kick them out. There is a reason why if you live in the West Bank and you leave the West Bank, you can't come back in. Think about that. PA authority refutes BBC journalists. Oh yeah, here. This was good too. This is why we refuse a condemnation paradigm repeated by mainstream media for decades, including BBC News last night. Here, let's take a look at what he said.
Morning, when you first heard what Hamas had done, what went through your head?
Regret that the international community...
I had a whole talk. My girlfriend explained this because she only ever heard mainstream news saying Hamas is evil. I mean, yes, Hamas are not good people, okay? I can't speak to the government authorities, but yes, Hamas is a fundamentalist Islamist group, okay? They are a cutout of the Muslim Brotherhood. It's not like they are good people at all, okay? But if given any kind of opportunity, I don't think the people of Palestine would say that they choose to be they choose Hamas for their own liberators. It is just who they have left. It's all the Palestinians have. It's like if you reduced Ukraine after colonizing it, you reduced Ukraine to no other formation, no other coalition but the Azov Brigade, and then that is all the Ukrainians had to defend themselves. And then they were like, well, you know, these are Nazis, gotta fucking rid them and destroy the remaining parts of Ukraine. Now, obviously, that's an unimaginable circumstance because Ukraine is a nation state and is also backed by the entirety of the Western world. Okay? And in that circumstance, it would be understandable if the people of Ukraine was not a proper nation state with a standing military and we're getting like endless amounts of munitions from Western nations, okay? And instead they were reduced to nothing and were under complete Russian control and were trapped in an open air prison on the one side, and on the other side you had like Ukrainians collaborating with the Russian authorities and then were engaging in mass expulsions, okay? And did all of this shit, and the only remaining forces that were fighting for Ukrainian emancipation were fucking the Azov battalion, then the situation would be understandable. This is precisely the reason why I said from the jump that Russia's invasion, okay, saying Ukraine is a nation state isn't accurate, but they are a state unlike Palestine, which is your point. No, it is accurate. What do you mean? It is a fucking nation state, constantly at the grips of either being in the Western sphere of influence or the Russian sphere of influence. That's not, what do you mean? There's no such thing as, I know Israeli propagandists are in here saying there's no such thing as historic Palestine, by the way. They are a cutout of the collapsed Ottoman Empire. Yeah, that's crazy. So I guess they don't deserve to live there. You're right. They should be fucking wiped out and ethnically cleansed. Got it. Thank you. No, people do not have the opportunity to have like any sort of post-colonial struggle there. No need for emancipation. You're right. You got it, dude. Thanks, man. That's a great take, dude. They should just fucking execute everyone there. Oh, wait, they literally did that in the Nakba and then engaged in mass purges as well. But hey, hold on. The British and Zionist brigades that did that, apparently before they engaged in like mass rapes, for example, and all that systematic displacement, endless bloodshed, they gave away pamphlets saying, hey, we're coming for you. Good take. Yes, this is the question. Do you think the violence the ANC committed in the fight against apartheid was the problem, or do you think apartheid was the problem? That's it. Do you think the worst issue is violence committed in the emancipatory struggle against apartheid or the apartheid? Which one is more violent? Which one? Tell all this is the mother of Shani Louk. What? Yemen, Rojava, Palestine, and all other oppressed people in our hearts. Doesn't matter. I condemn violence whichever way it comes from. Well, then, yeah, you are condemning. If you are standing in a neutral position against horrific, historic amounts of violence, like the continuation of an apartheid state, then you are siding with the apartheid state. Like, taking a centrist position in that regard is saying, that's great. No, apartheid is good and it should continue. All the IDF mass rapes during the Nakba were proven and documented as well, unlike the current claims of Hamas gang rapes in Israel. Yes. And you know what else was also massively documented? All of the mass rapes of Palestinian girls in Israeli prison. That is also not my take on the subject matter, but NGOs. I guess all of them are anti-Semitic, though, technically.
Community has not heeded our warnings for all these years. Regret that this was allowed to fester for decades. Regret that there is attention now in the BBC and all over the world only because blood has been spilled. I only hope that, or I wish, we did not get to this moment.
So you listed a number of things you regret there. Do you regret the loss of innocent life in Israel?
This is a fucking insane take, by the way. An absolute insane take. Okay? Every single fucking time they bring anyone who is like pro-Palestine or Palestinian, they only bring them there specifically to be like, condemn the violence, condemn the violence, condemn the violence, condemn the violence, condemn the violence of the Palestinians, condemn the violence of the Palestinians. I have never seen in all of my life bringing up an Israeli politician, okay, onto Western media, sitting their fucking ass down and going, do you fucking condone your snipers shooting children? Never. Never. That has never happened. It will never happen. It will never happen. It is so infantilizing. It's so disgusting. It's so infuriating. And Palestinians and Palestinian supporters have to fucking sit there and take it, even though they know that this is a contentious circumstance. You want to know why? Because this is the only opportunity someone like him will have to have his voice be fucking heard. Okay?
Every loss of life is regrettable, of course, and tragic. Absolutely. The question is, how do we stop this? How do we provide an alternative path? How do we learn the lessons and the mistakes of the past? How do we treat the Palestinian people after 100 years of suffering equally to all other nations? How do we stop this demise into the mayhem that you have described? Do not underestimate people's will and desire for freedom, to end occupation and captivity. This isn't about Hamas only. This isn't about the last 48 hours. This has been ongoing for more than 100 years. It started here, by the way, Louise, in this very city. It was Britain that gave our rights away without even consulting us. And then this whole international Western approach to us has been failure, dismal failure. This is about time that we really give a different path, because there is no other alternative. As our ambassador to the UN just said, justice, not vengeance, and peace, not war. And we, the Palestine National Movement, we, the PLO, have given that alternative avenue 30 years ago. We have recognized Israel. We have committed to negotiations and nonviolence. We have committed to international law and resolutions. Israel was supposed to do one thing: end its occupation and stop its colonial settlement expansion. It did not do this for once. All the successive governments and the international community was supposed to provide accountability and guarantees. The US-led international community did not do so. So we are here today, Louise, and the question is, the most important question: how do we stop Israeli massacres that are about to happen against Palestinian civilians? Well, and how do we...
I want to jump in on, and I appreciate the historical context, and we will come back to that. Just on the last 48 hours, though, do you support what Hamas launched?
Look at his face. Dude, it's like, hey, man, hey, dude, are you there to do a job? And what is your job? If you are there to do, like, an interview, is your job to, like, fucking humiliate the person that you brought on? Who are you working for? Are you there to understand the other side? Or are you there to just, like, fucking yell at them? He already said it's a massacre. Everybody fucking understands that it's a massacre. Not a single person thinks it's appropriate, okay? Everyone understands, however, is that the violence happens as a consequence of the endless amount of violence that Palestinians have endured every single fucking day. It is so stupid. It's so ridiculous. And he also explained it. Shut the fuck up. It's disgusting, dude. His job is to provide an opposing viewpoint to allow the interviewer a chance to respond. Yeah, except they don't do that for Israeli officials. They don't do that for Israeli officials. They defend Israel's actions tooth and nail, okay? That's the problem. They're only one-sided in this circumstance. Even when Israel has killed significantly more children, significantly more journalists, the goal is not to provide an opposing viewpoint. The goal is to just simply try and attack and trap your interlocutor in that situation, not your guest that you've brought on to hear their side. The goal is to trap them into a corner strategically so you can cut propaganda off of them and bully them and humiliate them. Chatters in here should know better than that. You know why you should know better than that? Because it happens to me all the fucking time by the freaks. Freaks do this for free. At least that guy is getting paid. He's getting paid well. Freaks in here do that for free. They come in here, they bait me, and they wait for a fucking response. And then when I give it to them, even if there is a longer, more elaborate way to respond to it, they fucking clip the shorter period, and then they pump it on fucking Twitter for free. They do it for free. That is the saddest part about their existence, in my opinion. They ride the dick for fucking free. Now, here's the thing. Okay? Why is Western support so one-sided? I mean, come on, dude. It's just colonial actions. Certified freaks 7 days a week, exactly. All the freaks also know, however, that no matter how hard they bait me, they will still eat the 3-minute ad break at the top of the hour. Because at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break that they will see unless they subscribe for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime. The IDF forces killed my aunt's best friend, Rachel Corrie, American with a bulldozer back in the early 2000s, been the norm for living memory. Oh, yeah. What is the motive for Hamas? Is it ending in apartheid or is it taking a piece of land? Genuine question. I don't know what the exact motives of Hamas are, but I know the Palestinian motive is to, in the short term, stop the brutality. That is what Palestinians want, is to stop being bombed, is to stop having their homes taken from them, is to live a life of dignity. Live a life of peace and dignity. Not have their hospitals bombed. Not have their schools bombed in Gaza. And be able to live in the West Bank freely as is supposed to be the legal rights that they have. That is what the Palestinian need is. As far as Hamas goes, I don't know what Hamas's genuine interest is beyond, I guess, like controlling Gaza and also having a unified interest in ridding Gaza of the open air prison status that it currently has. I am serious, yes. Do I think Hamas will be able to achieve that? I don't know. It is entirely in the hands of Israel. Israel has the opportunity and has had the opportunity time and time again to collaborate with Palestinian officials and treat them with dignity and humanity and treat the Palestinian people in the West Bank with dignity, and yet they have consistently engaged in ethnic displacement. So tell me why or how Palestinians are supposed to struggle. And let me use another example here, okay? Let me use another example here. People get so mad at the violent ways in which Palestinians have reacted to their circumstances, okay? Which is, you know, maybe you are genuinely a humanitarian and across the board you don't think that violence is permissible in any circumstance whatsoever, okay? Fine. But if that's the case, then why is every American currently losing their fucking mind? Every American politician is losing their mind that Americans are exercising their First Amendment rights to support Palestinian liberation, Palestinian emancipation, which would literally help the Israeli security in and of itself. So why is it? So which way does the Western man go? Which way does the Palestinian go? They get yelled at if they are peacefully protesting. They get shot by sniper rifle if they're peacefully protesting. They get shot all the time for just existing in the vicinity of an Israeli settler in the West Bank. They get bombed for being born on the other side of a border wall. And then even if they do protests saying Palestinians are human, they deserve dignity, they deserve to be free, people still yell. So what is it? Is there a permissible way to defend Palestinians that people will say, you know, that's actually appropriate? I will allow that. Go ahead, please. Shackle us that want to defend Palestinians. Go ahead. Explain to us what the boundaries are. Is there any legally permissible way of defending Palestinian dignity and Palestinian lives that anyone will ever think is appropriate? Yeah, Israeli occupation forces bombed the home of colleague Tamer al-Mashad in Gaza, presenter of What is Hidden is Greater program of Al Jazeera. We saw him yesterday. I mean, he wasn't in the house, for the record, luckily. But, like, do you think Hamas was there? Or do you think they know exactly where all the journalists live and they bombed the shit out of it anyway? I mean, they bombed the Associated Press building, guys. What are we talking about? Ne yapıyorsun lan? Amına kodumun FETÖ'cüsü. Senin ananın amını sikerim. FETÖ'cü diyor bana, geri zekalı. Is it literally because I'm Irish that I remember the U.S. citizen journalist at the IDF murdered and then beat the funeral attendees? Yes, that's why you know. Yeah, dude. Israel literally destroyed the Associated Press office in Gaza and then said, sorry, Hamas was there. Like, this also had multiple other journalistic outlets in there. Yeah, dude, all the journalists were collaborating with Hamas. Get the fuck out of here. This reporter got fired for being pro-Palestine. Yeah, Jackson Frank, who recently became the Sixers beat writer for the Philly Voice, was let go following a tweet showing solidarity with Palestine in response to the team's remarks about Israel. Mr. Frank is no longer employed by phillyvoice.com as of today. Fun time to remind everyone that supporting Israel by saying that you would like to boycott, engage in divestments, and engage in sanctions on Israel as it continues its apartheid regime is illegal in 36 states in the United States of America. This is a very severe violation of the First Amendment laws in the United States of America. And yet nobody talks about it, and it's perfectly allowed. It is so fucking ridiculous. If you support Palestine, you can get fired from your job. You cannot get a job in certain instances, like in Texas. You have to sign a pledge that you will never support Palestine to become a fucking teacher, and it will never be challenged in the courts. Are you crazy? Are you crazy? Why would this be challenged in the courts, brother? What do you mean? It is by design. A Jewish friend of mine expressed solidarity with Palestinians on Facebook and got reported to his boss by psycho Zionists. Yeah. I mean, that is what the Canary Mission does. Their whole job is to be like, oh, you support Palestine? You should be fired immediately. Oh, this nurse supports Palestine. They should fire him. And then they do get fired, by the way. If they don't get fired, they get fucking bullied and harassed nonstop. For people who are wondering, list of journalists killed during the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Professional or citizen journalists and media activists killed in Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory. Freelance journalist shot by IDF during the 2023 conflict. Dream radio journalist shot in the chest by IDF en route to a job in Hebron. Al Jazeera journalist shot in the head by Israeli forces. Radio broadcaster killed in his house by Israeli missile strikes. Photographer shot in the abdomen by the IDF. Video journalist shot in the abdomen by IDF sniper. Associated Press journalist killed by live bomb dropped by IDF on soccer field in the Gaza Strip. Al Resala newspaper editor who was critically injured by an Israeli strike on his house on July 20th and died 11 days later. Palestine Network for Press and Media cameraman killed in Israeli bombing of a market in Gaza. Al-Aqsa TV cameraman killed in Israeli bombing of a market in Gaza. Former Palestine national football team player and sports television presenter killed in Israeli bombing of his building as he slept. Continued TV cameraman killed by Israeli shelling. Driver for Media 24 killed in his car by Israeli airstrike. Al-Aqsa TV cameraman killed in his car by Israeli missile airstrike. Al-Quds educational radio employee killed in car by Israeli missile strike. Italian activist, newspaper and radio journalist and international solidarity movement member kidnapped and murdered by extreme Gazan group Tahwid al-Jihad. There you go. So far, one. Back to Palestinian media and communication company cameraman killed by Israeli airstrike. Reuters cameraman killed by flechette shell during the Al Burej massacre. Editor and distributor of Daily Palestine newspaper beaten and shot by gunmen in presidential guard uniforms, potentially Fatah. Now we're gotten to 2007. So now we're talking about like, some. That's another one. Okay, there's two. Radio correspondent and freelance photographer shot in the stomach by IDF. Magazine journalist and advisor to President Yasser Arafat shot outside of his office by gunmen of unknown but suspected Palestinian origin. Documentary filmmaker shot in the neck by IDF. Freelance photographer shot in the head by IDF. Voice of Palestine radio host shot in the head by IDF sniper during the protest against the siege of Palestinian National Authority headquarters. Freelance photographer shot in the leg by IDF. Freelance photographer shot 6 times in the chest by IDF. Najah press office and Islam Online reporter killed in Israeli bombing of Palestinian Center for Studies in Media. Kuwait news agency correspondent killed in Israeli bombing of Palestinian Center for Studies in Media. Wafa reporter killed in explosion of unknown origin. So, and this is before we get to the professional or citizen journalist, media activists killed outside of Israel and the occupied territory. So, do you guys understand the situation? Do you understand the situation a little bit better? Do you get what's going on there? Do you think that there is any equivalence here? Do you think that one side cares about free speech and free press? Like, what's going on? How does this work? Explain this to me. Explain this to me. Damn, if Hamas dresses journalists, the IDF don't miss. This is part of the reason why people have been incredibly... My bro, you literally have people in here saying they were marked as journalists after they died for martyrdom purposes. I swear to God, this chat gives me brainworms. Yes, all secret agents of Hamas. Hamas is in every fucking shadow. It's in every corner until it literally does become the truth, for the record. Now, one thing you need to understand. One thing you need to understand here, okay? There is an asymmetry to the violence, of course, because one is a colonial apartheid state. The other is militias formed out of the rubbles of the victims of said colonial apartheid state, okay? That's why all of the fucking conversations revolve around the hypothetical of, like, what if Hamas actually joined... what if Hamas actually was able to, take over the entirety of Israel, and then they would do an ethnic cleansing? It's like, yeah, dude. Yeah, exactly. Except if Palestinians had full control over historic Palestine, Hamas would not be the major fucking power player, because Hamas only exists and has life breath into it, specifically because of Israel's endless occupation and blood and soil conquest. Okay? That's it. And Bibi Netanyahu knows this reality. Okay? This is by design. And of course, in the Western world, people are playing their own fucking McCarthyist agenda by saying anyone that pushes for the emancipation of Palestinian peoples, anyone that says Palestinians are human beings, is treated like they're saying that they're Hamas operatives. They love Hamas. They want to hug and kiss Hamas, and and that there is no nuance in the situation. Israel is once again blameless, even though they keep doing it over and over again. Even though their own internal FBI is saying, "Bro, stop fucking squeezing the West Bank. You are breathing fire into Hamas by doing so." Members of Netanyahu's coalition criticized the head of the Shin Bet security service after he warned Netanyahu about the dangers of Israeli Jewish terrorism. Think about that.
On Saturday morning.
Well, this is not the right question, Louis. Really, the right
it's
question.
It's an important question.
No, it is not an important question because
whether you support their action or not is an important question.
No. It is not an important question. Hamas is a group, is a militant group. You're talking with the Palestinian representative. Our position is very well known and clear.
And what is that? Do you support Hamas's actions?
And then you cannot equate. This is not about support or not support. I am here to represent my people, the Palestinian people, what they are going through. I'm not here to condemn anybody. And if anybody that needs to be condemned, it's what you call the only democracy in the Middle East, that is Israel, between parentheses, that is doing what you have just reported, targeting civilians. And this has not just happened the last 48 hours.
Hamas was just targeting Palestinians, but you won't condemn that.
I'll tell you one thing. Hamas is not the Palestinian government, okay? The Israeli government is giving orders for its organized army. So please don't draw any symmetry here. Don't equate. There is no way you can draw any symmetry. And don't equate between the occupied and the occupier. This doesn't.
Yeah. Oh, so good. He's so right. Exactly.
Serve justice to understand for your audience and viewers the real situation. Since Israel's establishment, it has had one military doctrine. When it fights, it goes and fights civilians, kill civilians, so they pressure the fighters. Since 1948, and go back to the record, and this has been repeated in Gaza and will continue to be repeated. So the conversation is not a blame game. I am not in the business of blaming the victim here. The real conversation is how do we stop this vicious, deadly cycle?
You just condemned Israel for killing civilians, and you won't condemn Hamas for killing civilians.
How many times you have interviewed Israeli officials, Louise? Hundreds of times. Hundreds of times. How many times Israel have committed war crimes right live on your own cameras? Do you start by asking them to condemn themselves? Have you? You don't. You don't. No, I'll answer that question. You don't. You know why I refuse to answer this question? Because I refuse the premise of it. Because at the very heart of it is misrepresentation of the whole thing. Because it's the Palestinians that are always expected to condemn themselves. I mean, come on, this is a political conflict. We have been denied our rights for a long time. So this is the wrong starting point. The right starting point is to focus on the root causes, is to try and get out of this extreme dark tunnel, as opposed to this business by BBC and the mainstream media for 75 years. You bring us here whenever there are Israelis who are killed. Did you bring me here when many Palestinians in the West Bank, more than 200 over the last few months? Do you invite me when there is such Israeli provocations?
I'm a Palestinian citizen living in the West Bank. I'm a peaceful citizen. I didn't go to any protest, nor I post anything about Israel and Palestine conflict, yet I am targeted by every settler by existing. I was attacked not once nor twice. And I am just scared of being shot for no reason and not getting justice. This is the daily existence of Palestinians living in the fucking West Bank. They have no rights. The entire fucking military occupying force apparatus is against them. The goal is openly and very clearly defined by the Israeli state to ethnically displace every single Palestinian living in West Bank, regardless of fucking creed, regardless of language, regardless of religious beliefs, because there are plenty of fucking Palestinian Christians that live there as well, okay? The goal is deliberately to kick them out. There is a reason why if you live in the fucking West Bank and you leave the West Bank, you can't come back in. Think about that. That is really important to understand, because whenever people say, what do you say to the Palestinians refusing a two-state solution time and time again? Are you fucking blind? Are you fucking stupid? Or are you a bloodthirsty jackal who wants the continuation of the apartheid? That you are further to the right than the Israeli security apparatus in this moment? Peaceful coexistence in the two-state solution that supposedly is in the hands of Palestinians is the West Bank. Do you think that they are happy? Do you think that they live a life of dignity? Or do you think their lives are controlled by checkpoints, by Israeli partitions, and that there will never be a two-state solution because Israel will never allow it? Two-state solution is just a continuation of apartheid. It's a justification for doing slow burn ethnic cleansing to make the lives of Palestinians living in the West Bank as miserable as fucking possible by sometimes directly killing them or at least delegating that responsibility into the hands of the settler colonial psychopaths and then defending them at every fucking turn with the occupying police force. That is your fucking two-state solution that the Palestinians supposedly have ignored or said no to. What living is that? What kind of existence is that? Many of you would absolutely, if you defend Israel unconditionally, many of you would defend South African apartheid 100%. It is so real. It is so disgusting. You are in denial. You want to think that you are above it. Everybody wants to think they're a Nat Turner defender. Everybody wants to think that they're a John Brown defender. Everybody wants to think that they would be on the side of the liberating cause, the emancipators in all of the historic battles that have played out, and yet you're showing your ass. There is an opportunity for you to take the right side in this circumstance, and you are choosing the opposite. And you're doing that either because you have been duped, maybe because you have been misguided, or because you know the facts and you don't care. It is not hard to pick the good side. You are out of your fucking mind, dude. No, that's crazy. That is fucking crazy to say that under an apartheid regime, you have those who are colonized and those who are doing the colonizing, and you go, it's too hard. I don't know what to do with this. I don't know whose side to be on. Can you explain why Palestinians are allowed to live in Israel, but Israelites cannot live in the West Bank? I love you, chatter. Thank you. These are the reason why I love these takes is because these are like every single propaganda point I've heard throughout my entire like past 10 years of publicly defending Palestine. Okay, I've heard this a million times over. First and foremost, what fucking Israeli wants to live in the West Bank? What fuck? First of all, you meant Gaza, okay, not the West Bank. Okay, you meant Gaza, not the West Bank. That's number one. Because the actual propaganda is like, oh, well, Israelis can't live in the West Bank. Or Israelis can't live in the Gaza. Not West Bank. Israelis do live in the West Bank. So they shouldn't, but they do. Okay? So you didn't even do the propaganda right. I'm responding to the actual propaganda that you're supposed to do. So next time you want to do that, say that instead. Okay? Explain why Israelis don't live in Haiti. Yeah, exactly. This must mean that Haiti is deeply anti-Semitic. The West Bank is supposed to be the tiny marginal fucking land remaining for the Palestinians that are supposed to be there. Their entire leadership collaborates with Israel. Okay? As far as Gaza goes, Israel unilaterally pulled out of Gaza so they could erect a wall around it. That is true, so they could fucking make it an open-air prison. But as far as Israelis living in the West Bank, this is not a peaceful existence. This is not a peaceful coexistence. This is called, and there is a term for this in political science, settler colonialist terrorism. Okay? Settler terrorism is the appropriate term. They are not simply coexisting and erecting monuments side by side with the Palestinians and living alongside them and collaborating as though they are neighbors. They are going from Long Island to the West Bank to sit on top of the houses where Palestinians currently live. And the only way that they are able to do so is because of the violent military occupying force of another country. Technically, if you believe in a two-state solution, you are supposed to say that's West Bank. They are supposed to have their own authority. They're supposed to have their own standing military. They're supposed to have their own courts, but they do not have any of those things. Okay? These people are not just going, oh man, that'd be so sick if we could just like sit here. You paint this issue so black and white when it isn't. No, my friend, the unfortunate reality is that you are so blinded by propaganda that when I tell you factually accurate information, it hurts your feelings. So you can't actually respond to the information and go, maybe I should re-examine my perspective on the matter. No, I will attack the messenger instead. I will attack the person who is, for the first time perhaps in my entire life, giving me what is actually going on the ground. Why are you pretending Gaza doesn't have a border with Egypt? Hamas does not control the border with Egypt. Egypt controls the border. Egypt also collaborates with the Israeli government. The notion that like all matter of goods that go into Gaza is not controlled by Israel is a silly one. Israelis themselves, or the Israeli government themselves, openly recognize this reality. You are simply using propaganda talking points that are very clearly and very quickly destroyed by the actions of Israel today. If you are asking me, oh, I can't believe you're saying this is an open prison, for example, how the fuck is Israel controlling the food supply going into Gaza? How did the defense ministry come out and say, we are stopping the food from going into Gaza today. We are stopping the electricity from being run in Gaza today. We are stopping the clean water from being accessible in Gaza today. How can they do that if they actually have a way out? Oh, for the record, that border that you said Egypt has with Gaza was closed already, and then Israel bombed it. But again, is he saying that Israel is in the wrong? Israel is right? Is he saying, are you talking to other chatters? Are you that dense that you can't comprehend my words when I speak them? But they don't kill civilians? Yeah, no, it's just a oopsie. This, oopsie, right? 6,407 Palestinian deaths from 2008 to 2023. Before the, until August 31st, 2023, before the last little back and forth that we're in currently. Was this a oopsie, you think? How did this happen? What's that about? Oopsie. Is that what it is? Just numbers? 152,560 Palestinians were injured in the process too. Shot deliberately by Israeli sniper fire in their peaceful demonstrations after 2018. Many of those people were shot down and maimed deliberately by IDF snipers. So, what's up? Where is that chatter now? Israel doesn't kill civilians. Israel demands correction from Sanders. It only killed 533 Palestinian children in the summer of 2014. Yeah. Oh, they warn civilians before they destroy anything. Oh, dude, got it. Chatters who have been in here. Chatters who have been in here for the past 7 hours yesterday and the past 3 hours today will notice a trend in here. The talking points always go back to the same talking points. These talking points only work if you are captive in an echo chamber, okay? When you move outside of that echo chamber and try to pull that shit in a community that is a little bit more informed and better equipped, all of a sudden, they perish. These arguments fall apart because the arguments are fucking insane. Because the unfortunate reality is, for all of those who want to legitimately defend the apartheid state of Israel, well, at a certain point, you got to at least be as honest as the far-right elements in your country, okay? That's the reality. At least the psychopathic dogs like Ben-Gvir are honest about their goals, okay? They're right. They want to do ethnic cleansing. That is correct. They're brutal, but they're honest. Palestine people go to Israel and live there in safety. Yeah, and Palestine is unsafe because of Israel. And Palestinian people do not have any safety inside of Israeli borders. So there you go. If I blew up your fucking house and gave you a 15-minute warning, I don't think you would have this kind of opinion. I think you would literally rise up and grab the first gun you could find and try and kill me. Okay? Hasan is the propaganda machine. This is wild. Yeah. What's the counterpoint then? Also, was the breakdown of civilians versus Hamas/terrorists? Your numbers, statistics don't show any of those breakdowns. I mean, okay, that's a good take, right? I don't know. Maybe 2 million people living inside of the Gaza Strip and 47% of them being under the age of 14 or the age of 14 should show you that routinely bombing and stopping food from going in there is completely insane, unless you think 14-year-old and under are all also Hamas. You think that's cool? You think that's a justified act? No. Here's what the fucking troll says. And I will tell you. They are using the human shields. They're using those babies as human shields. That's what Hamas does. Yeah? Is that what they do? Where are they supposed to go? And why are you a mindless robot? Why are you killing the children? Stop killing the children. There you go. Anyway, bombing entire city blocks. Oh, by the way, this is also correct. You're not supposed to start the two-front war voluntarily, you dumbasses. Israel strikes Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon. So now southern Lebanon, or at least Hezbollah, will go into battle as well.
In Jerusalem and elsewhere. Because Israel, what Israelis have seen, which we started by saying tragic, the last 48 hours, the Palestinians see every day for the last 50 years. You know the situation in Gaza, you've just described it. This is the biggest open-air prison. Those people, 2 million, have been taken hostage by Israel for the last 16 years. So I'm saying this just to say, Louise, perhaps this is about time we abandon this rhetoric, very dangerous, this framework, and we start giving people the real ugly truth sometimes.
What is the solution in your eyes?
International law. That's it.
What does that mean?
The equal application of international resolutions and law and legitimacy, as you did in Ukraine. Would you bring the Ukrainian ambassador here and start asking him to condemn if some of his fighters? We need to fully and equally apply the rules that were created by the League of Nations after the horrors of the Second World War. We need to make sure that Israel is not the exception. It has been for the last 75 years. We need to make sure that nobody is above the law. Britain is renowned, Louise, for the rule of law. I think that's the solution. Israel is an occupying force. It is responsible to provide protection for the people under its occupation. And should they commit crimes and crimes against humanity in the coming hours and weeks, it must be held accountable by the international community and the international judicial system.
Why are people saying open prison? It seems like a prison. They say open air prison because it's a city. Technically, it doesn't have a roof over its head, partially because it makes it easier to fucking bomb by Israel. But I don't know. I read a lot of old New York Times articles in South Africa's two-state solution of Bantustans and reserves, and the white government sure seem pretty equitable. I trust them. They're definitely reporting on this conflict accurately. Yeah. Israel has been carrying out a genocide for decades without consequences. They'll start a two-front war if they want. They assume that the rules don't apply to them, and for good reason, because the rules have not applied to them until now. But there is one thing. Rules don't apply to them, and yet there is one thing that they have. Limitations, okay? You can only fight battles on two fronts for so long. One thing you always have to consider is that, first of all, you're not working with like a lackluster, shitty Egyptian military. Okay, you're working against a individuals that have hardened, battle-tested dudes that are very good at launching insurgency campaigns. So that's number one. Okay, if we're talking about Hezbollah, and two, no matter how much support you have. You literally, and no matter how much international support you have, no matter how much U.S. support you have to remember something. And then you have the IRGC as well. But I'm not even getting into that. You have a standing military. You have a standing military that is comprised of dudes who have not fought real insurgency battles for years. Your standing military is used to fighting, not ISIS, not fucking Al-Qaeda or anyone else. Your standing military is used to fighting 14-year-old Palestinians that are throwing rocks, civilians. That is the reason why what happened yesterday and yesterday, the day before happened, okay? Because the IDF was not ready to fucking actually defend Israel against like genuine attack. Anyway, how can you say that the pen is mightier than the sword and have gotten really good at killing journalists? Yeah, maybe, perhaps, if the Hezbollah wore press vests as they tried to infiltrate Israel, then they could get fucking absolutely eviscerated. But for the time being, I don't think that would pan out well. Nobody wants conflict at the end of the day. That only is a continuation of the harm. That only is a continuation of the conflict. That only is a continuation of the bloodshed for no reason. Every day, there is a massive amount of news stories that I want to get through, and I simply cannot get through it because I don't have it in me to watch mainstream media. It hurts my soul, okay? It hurts my fucking soul when I see the coverage afforded to this situation. Very rarely do they have a decent understanding of the situation, or very rarely do they actually offer the dignity to the Palestinian people, see them as human beings.